Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. And as I wrap up an incredible 3 days of rogue journalism here in the city of New Orleans, I get a chance to interview a pioneer of the bass, a guy who has been speaking a lot and talking a lot on his instrument for a long time, but always looking to communicate as one within the construct of a band. George Porter Jr., welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, you're right.
Can you talk about, it could be with the Meters, could have been with Bannister, the idea when musically everybody was thinking as one. Is there, with the Meters, I was interviewing Julian Priester from Herbie's band, M1 Dishi band, and he talked at a certain point about they were reading the same spiritual texts, but they just were thinking as one. Can you talk about that in your experience in a band that you had, and what that was, how that happened?
I'm not exactly sure how that happens. I mean, when I think about it, when we first started playing, when I say we, the band that eventually became the Meters, I don't think we thought as one. I think that because I believe we did more listening to each other.
Well, that's what that is. Yeah, exactly.
But that's not thinking as one. I mean, because at the time if you're thinking as one, it means that then there's one idea that everybody just clamps to. No, I believe that a band that's listening to each other tend to, as Prince and Prince in any piece of music or any parts of the gig, gravitate to what's being said here at this particular time, and it makes that as solid as it can be, and then somebody moves somewhere else, and then the whole thing. So if it's a continuous gravitating, effect from the players that's just paying attention. When someone isn't paying attention, then sometimes they just miss things happening around them because they're not paying attention. I've been in bands that happens all night long.
Yeah, and that's not it. That doesn't get me off, or I can't even imagine it must not get you off at all. But I mean, the idea of saying, okay, so Leo plays a lick and you're just right there to continue the conversation. The idea of just being in sync. You guys, when you talk about the Meters, how long did it take you to be, if you ever were, in sync as one moving organism?
Well, I would think that probably by the time we became the Meters, I think our roles as players got to be more important when we started recording with Toussaint, because when we first started working with Toussaint, he kind of, how you say it, he kind of hacked out neighborhoods that we should all individually be conscious of.
Your turf.
Your turf, working out, this is what your turf is, this is what your turf is, and this is what your turf is, and Art, you do whatever you want. That's pretty much how that went. The rest of us kind of, our parts were almost like dictated in most cases with Alan sessions. But having turf nailed out like that also gave us a different view on how to maintain a neighborhood, but at the same time be well aware of what else going on in those other neighborhoods. So I believe it wasn't until that point that we became probably more synced, if that's the correct word. I'm not even sure if being in sync is the right word.
So what year was your connection with Toussaint?
Well, it had to be 67.
So it was before you guys actually you made one album at that point?
We hadn't done a recording yet. We did probably like about 14 or 15 sessions with Alan. And when I say sessions, we were talking about per songs, song sessions. We had been in the studio with Alan probably on 4 or 5 sessions, which
Yeah, Irvin Bannister. You're definitely not on that record, right? I mean that
Irvin Bannister was not
at Cosmos. That was the Cosmos Studios.
The session that I did with Irvin was years earlier. Not years earlier, but probably
It was pre Toussaint. It was pre Alan.
Yeah, and that was just me. That wasn't the rest of the guys in the band.
What was your neighborhood? You were the leader of what neighborhood as far as Alan was concerned? What were the tenets of your neighborhood?
The baselines of being very aware of the backbeat. Whatever the baseline that I was dictated. I just had to not make a note lean over into that backbeat. I had to get that note out the way of that backbeat because he never wanted a bass note to be anywhere near a backbeat.
What was his thought process? That's brilliant. What was the thought?
No clue. You have to ask him.
Well, he's gone. He's gone.
That's a secret that's going away.
But a lot of the cats, Motown gets the publicity because of Jamerson. But the bass line was very much counterpoint to the vocals. Did that come up a lot too? That music got way away from that whole concept of the idea of the bass being playing counterpoint to the vocals. Was that something you guys were conscious of at C-Saint or when you were working with Toussaint?
Not at all. Not at all. It was almost like when we were doing the Toussaint sessions. It was there weren't no vocals being available. We didn't hear. There wasn't a vocalist or a singer or even Alan humming a melody while we played these parts. These were like pure rhythm tracks.
I love it.
With nothing else. Statements. Individuals making statements other than what was dictated to them was just like absolute no. The session would stop. We'd start over again. Don't play that. You don't play no more than that. And like I said, it was a funny thing. But he always said that he never told Art what to play or what not to play because Art just always seemed to know what to play. And so Art parts was never in anybody's way. They never ever gave Art any grief about something he played, But if any one of us played an extra note or held a note too long, it would stop the session.
The point is, though, that the vocals, that they would work those out over a long period of time, but the actual rhythm tracks you would hit maybe first, second take, and you'd keep it unless somebody talked.
Sometimes I think there probably 1 or 2 or 3 songs that might have went into 10, 15 takes,
Really?
And then, I think there probably was a few songs that just got thrown out, because it just wasn't how he would say it just ain't that time,
On our first radio interview, you talked about going to Nice with Professor Longhair, and you got to meet Dizzy Gillespie there. And you said it was kind of a gig for the shaman, the older cats, the older guard. You said you didn't say much. You just listened a lot. Mm-hmm. Can you recall something that sticks with you today that you heard out of anybody? It could have been a blues cat, at Lockjaw Dave, anybody that you listened to that you still hold on to today.
Well, I guess the only thing that resonates still today with me, and I kind of sometimes use it, is was something Alan used to always say. Especially when you did something more than what you was told to do. It's not what you play; it's what you don't play, and that's pretty much. That makes sense, and it only makes sense when when you hear the finished product, and you realize, because like I said, with Alan's sessions, it was, we never knew what else was going to be happening. and he thinks horns. He thinks background singers that sings almost like horn parts. That there could be a horn that's playing a part that's going to be contrary to what that background singer is having.
Wow.
So there's 2 and 3 other parts to that song that the rhythm section don't even know. So it's like, it's like important not to play anything more than what was told to you.
You did play, you were playing, I mean, no one would credit you as a serious bebop bassist, but you were playing jazz gigs in fraternity houses quite a bit, or those blues. You played a lot of fraternity houses before the Meters.
Yes, I did. And the fraternity, the frat houses weren't as much jazz gigs, but I used to play a nightclub called the 808, and with a gentleman named Frank Moulton.
Yes.
And his guitar player at the time was Walter Washington. So we that gig, played probably the first hour and a half of that gig was probably swing bebopish kind of things, and later on, say probably in the mid '70s, I played, well, not even that late, probably early '70s,
Sure.
And through the mid '70s, I played with David Lasty and his brother Walter, and those gigs always started swinging. Always, that gig was always start with swing, And there was songs I didn't even know the names of some of them songs, but we would, we'd be swinging,
When Toussaint told you about it's not the notes that you play, it's the notes you don't play. Was that the first time you really, when you listened back to the records, did you realize that it was about dynamics? That very interesting. I mean, because whether it's Johnny V or all the cats that I've talked to, they're obsessed with dynamics. Your generation is obsessed with dynamics. You need dynamics. Part of the issue with music today, live, sometimes you go in, my generation and younger, they turn it up to 10 and it never changes. Mm-hmm. All right? It's just this steady thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, if not that, was dynamics something that you always craved? Did you learn? How did you learn?
I didn't crave it. I didn't crave it.
You can use your own words. I don't know if that's.
And I'm not sure if dynamics was as important because like you said, back then we just didn't play it like that. It was just we were more conscious of being an R&B band, which pretty much almost kind of said this is what an R&B band does, and it's more pocketed, and more consistent. But dynamics came from the artists who tell you come up and down, as far as velocity or volume, because or intensity, it's like working behind a guy like Cato, he would come on here, hit me hard, something like that. Then he would push it down and push it down. And Irma Thomas would be the Sam, if she would say things like "Come on, band," and stuff like that,
You played with Irma.
I did a little while with Irma. I did a short run with her. Yeah.
What about the fact that there were just crappy PA systems back then too? I mean, you really had it was not what it is today.
No, yeah, the PAs back then were, I think that might have had a lot to do with a lot of musicians thinking that they had to play loud on stage because the guitars and basses and drums didn't make it into PAs back then. The PA back then would have blew up.
Absolutely.
So the only thing coming through the PA back then was the vocals, and maybe a saxophone and if it was acoustic piano, And when the electric piano came in, the electric piano players didn't carry amps, so they used to plug that keyboard into the thing because they didn't tell the keyboard player when they bought the keyboard, the electric keyboard, he needed an amp.
No, I was going to say that. to me, it was like Al Jackson, Steve Cropper, when I interviewed him a couple months ago, he said Al Jackson said, listen, all you really need to do is make sure that the first two rows of people know it looks like you're having a good time, because nobody in the back can even hear anything.
Hear anything, right?
Right. So you talk about, I mean, can you talk about your entertainment, how you've grown? I mean, you claim you're not a great lyricist, but you surround yourself with good lyricists. What is an area that you still are growing in as a musician, as an artist?
Well, I mean, as an artist, I think I'm still growing. I'm still I'm liking more what I'm doing, today.
Why?
Reason writing why? Or because I think I've heard myself grow musically. I'm continuing to grow. I'm not kind of like leaning on my meter history to continue my
forward
movement. Unlike some of my friends, I feel that, outside the meter, George Porter Jr. needs to make a statement. I need to say something. I mean, the 2 records ago, I believe 2 or 3 records ago, I did my version of 16 meter songs that was recorded by the Meters, but never performed live by the Meters. And released that. That was, I think that might have been, when I did those records, I remember both Zig and Leo wasn't impressed, because they said, well, that's not where the music go. I said, well, we already done it that way. I was going to do it this way. This is not, I don't need to reproduce what y'all did. I want to play the song the way I interpret it. This is my interpretation of those songs. So we never spoke of it again.
Well, no, but it's interesting because so many friends of mine, dear cats, they go on these tours, it's Journey and Tower of Power and Steve Miller Band, and they're playing the tunes that the audience wants. They want to hear the hits.
Right.
But they're in the same, to me, could you talk a little bit about where you've grown as George Porter?
Well, okay, first of all, I don't believe that my meter history has enough hits in it to make a 2 75-minute set night. So I better know some other shit.
Right, you need a deep bag. You gotta have a bag.
With that being said, my thoughts was that if I'm reintroducing people to meter songs, I should play it, because obviously they may not have heard the original version of it, but they're hearing this version that'll make them want to go and and look. I mean, I've had people come and tell me after gigs, they said, I didn't know those were meter songs. I'm going to check those out, and stuff like that, and go check out. So that's. I think that was, I mean, when guys like the Widespread Panic and Fish and some of these other groups out there that play meter songs, it was a great story. I gotta tell you.
Do it.
It's a Wafton story, but it's it. The Funky Meters opened one of those Widespread Panic picnic things up in Alabama, and we went on and did our set, and we did Ain't No Use, and we did I think it was Just Kiss My Baby, and it was three songs in the set. And so when we was coming on stage, Dave Schools told me, he said, "Oh, y'all done played half-hour gig." We all kind of laughed, thought it was funny. But the next day,
right,
on and this was like before FaceTime. What was it? MySpace, I believe it was.
Sure,
called.
yeah.
MySpace.
In this century, but a while ago, yeah.
I got a message, saying, hey man, I really love what you guys did, man. I enjoyed your gig, and y'all, man, I'm gonna look more into your music. But man, I don't think it was really cool of y'all to play panic songs before they come on stage.
Oh man, I mean, you feel dated after that, dude. It's like, what are you talking about, man?
I just thought it was so funny, but I didn't have to say a word.
No, you don't.
Because there was
awesome.
There was a group of guys up there in Colorado that are like serious funky metal fans, and they just went after this guy.
They were like, dude, let's set the right. You let other people do that for you. That's freaking, what a great story, man. I mean, I had a chance to speak to Deborah Vidakovich yesterday, and you might want to go back and look at the interview because she spoke very glowingly of you. But was there a time when the musicians in New Orleans, I'm sure the answer is yes, but pulled you out of a situation? I mean, can you talk about the community here? This is my first trip to New Orleans, and it's been a mind-blowing experience. But, there have been plenty of cats that have, Katrina, health issues, all sorts of stuff. And it seems like even my generation still gets it. There's a serious community down here. Can you talk about how the community has helped you through your career?
Well, I was like, well, being a meter, we kind of got pulled out of the community because we went on the road so much. We weren't home as much as we did after we started recording. And I had a daughter that grew up barely knowing who I was, because I was gone so much. No, I don't know if there's actually a moment in my particular life or that I could say the community, the music community rescue.
Let me ask you a better question. You're always keep your heart open though when people come to ask you to do stuff. You seem to have a very open mind about being part of stuff. Mm-hmm. Even if you get into a certain business deal and you become like an exclusive cat, that doesn't last too long. You seem to want to be essentially always accessible. That's what my show is about. It's about accessibility. And I noticed with some cats, handlers have really gotten in the way of the accessibility between just being regular people. Do you feel like you can just be yourself down here? I mean,
I think absolutely. I don't believe any New Orleans musician ever got so big that he couldn't go to the corner grocery store. No. I mean, I could walk this neighborhood and I think maybe 5 people might know who I am.
This is one of the most stealth neighborhoods of all time. I love this neighborhood though. But nobody would recognize you. Could just be yourself.
Yeah.
You talked about this idea of being part of the drummer's pocket, as opposed to playing against the. You wanted to become part of their pocket, whether it's Zig or with Billy. Is that something that? Because a lot of times I'll listen to cats maybe, and I'm not even aware of it, but there's a push and pull. Because the bass player wants to create a pocket, the drummer's trying to create a pocket, and neither one wants to go into the other person. You said, I want to be part of the drummer's pocket. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the evolution of that? Was that something that Zig and you locked in on, or is that?
It wasn't. I don't believe it was something that was well, it wasn't something that was told to me that I had to do. I think I got that from experience bumping heads musically with the drummer and the tuck and pull thing. I think probably maybe became more conscious with me with playing with Professor Longhair because he has such a strong left hand, that it was either you played the exact notes his left hand played in exact figures that he played them, or you should play something that's totally less of what he's playing in order to, because the drummer that plays with Fess played with Fess's left hand. So, if anything, that's probably when I started realizing that it may be better for me to get in the pocket with the drummer. And then I think that I'm probably, and I started finding music just being a lot easier. At the end of the night, I was less frustrated musically.
I'm curious though, can you talk about a time, was it the frat house part? When were you feeling like you were trying to take it and create your own pocket, but it was the push and pull? Like this was like more like on the bandstand with cats like Earl King or Spellman. I mean, these cats like, I mean, when did you surrender to the music? Because I think the point what you're making is, at the end of the night, you had a good time. Chances are you had a good time.
That probably happened very early in my career, in my life. I would probably think that probably about 19, I hadn't realized that the tuck and roll thing, the tuck and pull, was old. It wasn't. I would go home, with a couple of dollars in my pocket, but not very musically,
Satisfied.
Yeah, satisfied or encouraged. I mean, it was like they were musicians. They were drummers that I played with when I was a kid. That I said, man, I don't ever want to play with this guy ever again. This is just like horrible. I mean, their tempos rushed. The timing was, they lose one, and stuff like that, and they'll come in, they'll drop beats and stuff like that. That was,
It's a mess. It was a mess.
That's like a mess. That was totally. I said, well, I ain't doing this no more. I've turned down gigs because who the drummer was. I mean, I've done that today.
Right. So you learn through experience. I mean, if you could put into words though, I mean, the hypnotic nature of the music that you've put together, the groove. What is the feeling like when you are just sort of? I mean, even with Billy, sometimes Billy Kreutzmann, you might have to look at each other and figure out where the one is. You're like, it's here. You might lose it, but what is that feeling like when you're playing within the pocket of the drummer? I don't want to say you give control, but it's that. What is the feeling like as a rhythm section when you lock into that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's a word other than we locked. It's when bass and drums is acting as one piece, then everything that's going on around us, is free to do all that, and and it's actually is free to lose one and stuff, because the rhythm section, has I mean, the rhythm section has that pocket, has that element of where home. The rhythm section is holding down home base. We got home. Y'all go wherever y'all want. You can do whatever you please. Get lost like you usually do.
Right. Right.
But we'll be here when you figure out how to get back. I've seen musicians. I mean, saxophone players, guitar players. They go off and just start soloing and screaming and soloing, and stop their solo. 3 or 4 bars before the end of the phrase. You know what I'm saying? Because they just was into their solo, and they just didn't. They don't know where one was.
Right, but you're at home base. But that's kind of still you don't want it to be. I mean, you want them to be listening and not just wanking it up there.
Well, I mean, you can always want. That says to me that you go get it.
God, you're blowing my mind right now. I mean, when you look at Charlie Neville, in my interview with him, he used to go to Hayes' Chicken Shack and see Coltrane play. Elvin would be nailing a nail to the floor to keep his drums there, because they were always flying around. Did you get a chance to see Coltrane play?
No.
And did you go on? I mean, one thing that was revelatory, I had a chance to hang with Ron Carter a couple weeks ago up at Billy Cobham's Rhythm Retreat, and he was in a gospel group called the Six Voices. This is before his studio career, his jazz career started. Did you do the Sunbeam Mitchell Chitlin Circuit, Tampa, those types of bars and clubs? Did you go on the Chitlin Circuit pre-meters?
We did the chicken circuit, but I believe
Jack's Fiesta Club. There's all these crazy, juke joints.
Yeah, I may be, a few years behind those guys.
Were you a few years behind Charlie?
I've never played on the Chicken Shack. I never played his, but I went there once.
You went to Hayes' too. Who'd you see there?
I went to saw Ray Charles there.
Legend.
I went to saw Ray Charles there, and it was mostly I went to see James Booker play keyboards with Ray Charles, and it was it was a great story, but it was like that Booker was doing this gig because Booker was at that time was a B3 player,
sure,
was well known as a B3 player, and Ray Charles' keyboard player took ill or something, so they called Booker in to come do the thing, and they put Ray Charles' music on a B3 for Booker to read, and we were standing over there in the corner watching Booker play this gig, and somebody tapped Herbert Wing on the shoulder and told him, said, "Hey man, check this out, bro." And he said, "What?" And he looked up and he said, "Look at Booker," and the music, the charts were upside down.
Oh, he was just, oh man, that is. And he was still cooking though.
He was cooking. He was burning the gig.
He was burning the gig up, and the charts were upside down.
He was reading this, if he was reading it at all, if he just wasn't using his great ears, man, his wonderful ears, just playing the music,
Johnny Panino. Who was Johnny Panino? Because you know what it is. You had an arbitrator injury. You couldn't play when you maybe wanted to get to the upright. You already had screwed up your shoulder too much. But the Panino gig was a stone jazz gig. Was that?
Yes, that was a straight ahead gig. Zig Leo and myself used to play that with Johnny.
Right.
He was a saxophone player that had other than that, he was a saxophone player. I didn't know much about him. He was. I knew he was a family member of some of the gangsters in New Orleans. So he had family ties, but I never knew nothing.
Well, and just for the record, John Hendricks, rest in peace, he told me without the Sicilians there'd be no jazz in America. So the mafia was really heavy down here.
Yeah. So so the music, but we used to do Sunday night gig. That was the only night we would have off at the Ivanhoe, and we would he came and got us to play those Sunday night. It wasn't a late night thing. It was an early gig. It usually be over with by 10, 11 o'clock. We would be off.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you're an omnivore when it comes to music.
What?
An omnivore. You're always searching. It's all music.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and you were playing 6 nights a week at the Ivanhoe with the Meters.
Well, we was playing before. It was before we were the name them. We weren't the Meters.
Pre-Meters. So you were turning those Fifth Dimension tunes upside down and inside out. You were doing all that crazy stuff. Cover tunes, by the way, people out there, do not play them directly like the cover tune. Play it like Porter did. You did Stephen Stills tunes. You turned them inside up and outside in. But why did you? Obviously, outside of just the craving to being horny to play, what was the Panino gig about? You still wanted to stretch your own vocabulary?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was like I said, as the 16-year-old Porter, played, and a 16 and 17-year-old Porter was playing first hour and a half of a gig playing jazz, playing bebop, and when the band that became the Meters started doing the gigs, when we started playing the gigs with we kind of turned more into the R&B cover band, local R&B. We were doing some arts, recordings, but for the most part, we were doing local New Orleans music, you know. And when we moved into the quarters, we kind of started adding some of the other stuff. So Leo would play some West Montgomery stuff, a couple of instrumental West Montgomery tones. You know,
California Dreaming or something. I mean,
yeah, and what's that?
Bumping on Sunset.
I can't remember all the names of them songs. It was I guess one I really.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
But anyway, we you know, so it was like, you know, we were a cover band for the most part. We were a cover band that interpreted those songs our way. We played them with a more of a New Orleans type feeling, the street feel that Zigaboo brought to the table, because Zigaboo was what he was. He was the guardian of the groove. He was the pocket.
I'm glad you brought that up, because you talk about the rhythm section being home base, and your nickname for the drummer is the guardian of the groove. What's your nickname for the bass player?
I don't have one.
You don't have one.
The bass player.
Yeah, but I mean, so if he's the guardian, I mean, are you both guardians? I just because I mean, this is integral, because a lot of people. Stanley Clark told me that it's a kind of a hidden best kept secret that rhythm sections are the real increase. They increase musical vocabulary. It's the rhythm sections that do that. Whether it's Tony and Ron, I mean, you can go on and on and on. But other people have told me they just can. Actually, Ron Carter told me himself that they can create a climate to increase musical vocabulary, but they solely can't do it themselves. But within the context of the guardian of the groove, what is the bass player's?
Well, I mean, it depends on the bass player, because you know, I don't believe that every bass player is the you know has a Porter initiative.
Right. I want to come up with a nickname for the bass player today. You know, the guardian of the groove just rolls up. I mean, that's the drummer. Now, again, you've also said. You know,
if I had to name it, then call it the Porter Initiative.
The Porter Initiative, and I mean, every bass player is going to. But what is the Porter doctrine? You say you play inside the drummer's pocket, but in that home bass thing, we just have to. What? Just riff on that. I mean, riff on the idea of. I think you're the guardian of the groove too, but I mean that's already the drummer's nickname that Porter gave.
Yeah, I believe you know the drummer has, you know, he controls the pocket. I mean he changes when at his wrist, and if you're not paying attention, you get left on the side. You know, I've come to learn how to do that. Now I've been playing in bands where you know, trying to play with the drummer was like I was being defeated mentally, but I figured that there were areas that you know I've started learning how to do things. I mean, because like you know, playing with Billy Kursman or Mickey Hart and Zigaboo, you know, that's like three totally different playing drummers. You know, I've never played with Mickey behind a set of drums, so I don't know what his concept behind a set of drums would be. But
he's playing more of the polyrhythm percussion stuff.
Well, he's like playing against the beats most of the time.
Right.
So you know, when you're playing with a band that has an aggressive percussionist like Mickey and a drummer, where does the bass player fit? You know. Somewhere in between the two, you know, and that's the way, you know, that would be my job, to figure out how to get in the middle of them and not cause more confusion.
Right. That's because I mean he's playing all the counterpoint. Billy's just trying to keep the groove, but you've never played with both of them together. You played with them. Well, it's so fascinating.
I've recently played with the two of them, and they had the company.
When you went up on this tour, you caught a hang with?
No, they played here in New Orleans, and I guess it was.
Mayer got sick. They had to reschedule the gig.
The second.
So what was that? What was that first time with them? I mean,
that was very interesting, and the position that I was in on the stage, the drums, the very little bit of drums that I was getting more of what Billy was doing more than what Mickey was doing. So I kind of locked in with Billy and played the songs that I selected to play, you know.
So Oteil was playing percussion, like Oteil, like
Oteil
was playing organ or something.
No, he surrendered the bass.
He surrendered. I love it.
And was actually sitting in the wings, you know, screaming and hollering at me. Get it! Yes, I love Oteil, man. He's a wonderful guy, man. Great musician too.
I mean, just there's a lot of good musicians. It's a treat to find incredible human beings as well. And Johnny V, in our first radio interview, he said that the first time you played with George Porter, when I brought up no, I was telling him because I was asking you about the cats you played with, where the beat falls in the weirdest places, but they have impeccable time. And you brought up Billy, and you brought up John. You know, John plays everything in one. And John told me the first time you guys connected was in '66. What was Johnny Vodakovich like back in 1970? I mean, break that down for the audience, dude. I mean, that dude is... I mean, it was pretty... You guys played for a long time. But when you first connected with Johnny, can you talk about your feeling about him?
You know, I can't... You know, we were playing on Bourbon Street. And we were playing a set in between dancers.
Shake dancers.
Shake dancers, yeah. And
so they were off, actually. They were taking a break, and you were just cooking.
They would be on a break, and we would play. We would play an hour, Owen. Then the girls would come back. You know, man, one of the things is I guess that's, you know, I'm almost 71, so I don't really remember. I couldn't tell you a name of a song we played.
Sure,
you know, but I'm assuming to say that, you know.
What do you love about playing with Johnny?
You know, his what I love about Johnny is that, you know, everything's one.
Explain that to the people in 50 years.
That's a question you got to ask him to explain.
But for a bass player, how is it different than as opposed to another drummer who's not playing everything in one?
Well, you know, or for me, I would say is that for me, when I'm thinking one, I think one as being the first beat of the bar. But when a fusion drummer or a drummer that plays melodies,
yes,
like John does, then, you know, the one could be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the two of us have bumped heads on where one is because he's thinking melody, and I'm thinking bars, beats per bar, and so I have to sometimes remember that he's playing melodies and stuff, and have to be conscious of where one is.
Zig played melodies though. I mean, Zig was, but his was a street feel.
Zig didn't. I don't think Zig was as conscious about playing melodies as Johnny.
Johnny, yeah. No, I saw them the other night, and I saw him play with Torkanowski and Singleton, and it was just like art. It was like colors and you know, just flying. Yeah. Or I'm curious. You mentioned tonight. Are you going to Ivan Neville's gig?
Yes, I am.
All right, so you're going to play with Johnny tonight.
I think I am.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll be able to, you know, I'll be able to get it out to the peeps. We'll be able to, you know, but I just want you to tell this story. This is really important. We're going through a really difficult time in our country. A lot of people don't know where they came from, so they don't know where they're going. There's a lot of fear. I want you to tell the story. When I asked you about going on the road with the meters early on, you said the most harrowing times were when you were on these roads late at night, almost running out of gas. Oh. Can you talk about the time, the Chaduki Do, the story when, how that, because that's a great story.
Well, it was, Yeah, I don't know. So I mean, today it may be because it may be something to laugh about, but it was kind of scary back then.
It was scary because the cops were also, you didn't know if you could really trust them too.
Well, we were in a town that I don't, by daybreak I didn't see a single black person anywhere in the neighborhood. When the police officers pulled up on us, they knew Shaduki Do. There's a song,
Well, let's be clear. You're driving all night. You're almost out of gas. Art's like, "Yo, we're gonna pull into this gas station here until it opens."
We got off of the main road and went to a gas station, and pulled off and was waiting for the gas station to open in the morning. While sitting in the vehicle, actually we pretty much had fallen asleep in the vehicle waiting
Yeah, you were out.
we were out when the police call pulls up and wanting to know why we were there. And Art, first the rule was that Art tells everybody else to stay in the vehicle, don't get out the car. He got out the car and he went to talk to the officers, and the next thing we know, we can hear him singing Shaduki Do.
So the cop knew his name, but didn't know what he looked like. So he asked.
Never knew what he looked like, but they knew his name. I mean, it happened to us once. Another time, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. We get to a gig. We get to go to load in at the gig, and this older black gentleman opens the side door, and he said, "Hey, you boys, how y'all doing?" He said, "What are y'all doing?" He said, we the band." He said, "Well, y'all mean y'all here to load the gear in for the band?" He said, "No, sir, we are the band." The guy said, "Oh, Lordy," he said just like that, "Oh, Lordy," and apparently the buyer did not know that we were a black band. And they thought that Sissy Strut, Sophisticated Sissy, was a white group.
So the owner of the bar didn't know who you cats were. He just dug the music.
He just dug the music.
And the thing is that the bar was very hostile. So what was that vibe?
It was like we played Sissy Strut every 3 songs.
Yeah, actually, the cats like Mike Finnegan talk about, like, interracial bands actually had it harder than if you were just a black band or a white band. In some ways, those not that you had that experience, but I mean, it's just fascinating. 3 things real quick I want to ask you about. How's your shoulder?
I have a torn
labrum.
It's called sciatica something.
Yep.
It's right here in the front, right there, and is
meniscus. No, that's in the knee.
Yeah,
we'll have to get the doctoral. That's a medical term. Someone help us out.
Something like with an S. I seen it like I can't remember.
Dig.
But it's torn, and no surgery at this point. But they're suggesting that I do 6 to 8 weeks of physical therapy.
So massage and but like
I have a 9:30 appointment in the morning with the physical therapist to determine my activities versus because I was real concerned with the physical therapy putting more pain on me than just the healing process.
Well, like tonight, I mean, are you going to compensate the way you hold the bass? You're going to hold it more upright?
No, I don't have a problem with the bass strap sitting on my shoulder.
Okay, you don't. So
it's just motion.
Right.
I can't do that. I can't.
Right. If you were
I can't do this.
If you were a pitcher, you'd be on the DL. You'd be on the DL. Sobriety. Talk to people about the.
I am into my 31st year of sobriety. I'm still very comfortable with it.
How many years?
31 years, I believe.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm almost positive. 31. So I kind of lost touch with it. Every now and then I go upstairs and look at my AA book, just to remind me when this really happened. So
Do you try to talk to your? I mean, addiction is a major issue in the world, in the country. Do you talk to your brothers and sisters about it? I mean, people that are struggling with it, and or do you not say it's just
no,
it's just
every now and then. Every now and then, sometimes I wind up, in a conversation with somebody, and they would question me about it, and we would talk, and then at the end of the conversation, they would say, well, we just had our meeting, man. Thanks a lot, because no, I don't seek out any meetings anymore. That I'm not. I think it is that it's not that I'm comfortable with it, because I'm very conscious of doing things like right now. I could really ease a lot of this pain in my shoulder by taking narcotics, but I won't do it. It's just that it's a concentrated effort to not do anything that can endanger my sobriety. So I'm around drugs and alcohol.
I don't know how you. I mean, you're around. It's everywhere. I mean, even as a fan, I'm having a ball. But people are really. I mean, for those who are struggling out there, what's your advice to them? Because I mean, to me, it's like this. You tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, there were times in the early '70s when business decisions were going down, and you were so high you didn't even want to be involved with it. You just ignored all that.
Yeah.
What if anything can you say about the path that that it's not easy? What advice do you have for people that are struggling with addiction out there?
Well, I mean, I think that the very first truth is to yourself. You really gotta want it. I mean, they say that the addiction is something that you can't fight. You can't fight it.
Right. Nothing
you can do to win it. But I believe that if you want it, you can have it. It's you just gotta want it. I mean, why did I want it so bad? I believed that I was about to die. I believe I was going to lose my family first before I died.
Right.
And
so you would have been an empty, lonely.
I would have been empty. I mean, when I got sober, when I was released from the not the nursing home, but
the clinic,
the treatment center.
There is a nursing home across the street.
Yeah. that same weekend, it was a Halloween weekend. My father passed away. I mean, me and my pop had no relationship until I was in the treatment center. And then while I was in the treatment center, he came in on every Sunday.
Wow.
For the 6 weeks that I was there, he would come in on that Sunday, and we would sit down and talk, and we made plans to get to know each other better. And so when I got out that Sunday, he died. Or he died that Saturday night.
He got you through, man.
So the thing that for me, it was like he abandoned me again. It was like I just said, "Whoa, what is this?" But that was a test of what I was going to do, because I was playing a gig, sitting on a stage that was up behind a bar. So there was, I'm a line of booze at my feet, and I'm playing this gig, But when my wife called me and told me that they found him dead, so that was, I said okay, and and then most recently when my wife passed away, when Era passed away, in November, she passed away one month and 1 day before our 51st wedding anniversary. That destroyed me, but I thought that man, this is going to really be rough, but I knew one thing that I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to get high, and I haven't.
50 years, man.
I gained a little weight since she passed away because I've been eating a bunch of BS.
Right. I mean, you lose that good cooking. But that was what I was gonna finish. I mean, did your wife come to you in your dreams? Do you still talk to her?
I get information. I get stuff from her. Not often, but from time to time, I do get stuff. And most recently, she just been bitching at me about getting back to work. About getting
back to work,
getting this record recorded. I started these two records, almost 2 years ago, and kind of started slacking off on the recordings because she was ill. I didn't want to be bringing people in and out of the house and into the studio upstairs, and so I just, I kind of slacked off on that. But,
so she's saying, get your butt together, get it together and finish.
Get it together. A week ago, I woke up and called everybody or texted everybody and told everybody, I said, this past Monday, Tuesday, and today we were supposed to be in the studio. But the electrical world is in a weird place right now. And I was just, my rigs was not working.
Wow.
So we spent 4 hours on Tuesday and 4 hours on Wednesday upstairs and got nothing done.
Just was not going to happen.
Start working and then it stopped. It'll start working and it stopped. And I threw my hands in the air and told everybody, I said, look, taking off Thursday, we'll do this. I'm just going to call a real studio. Then somewhat of a lady friend of ours, a kind of spiritual lady said, well, the stars are in retrograde or some crazy.
Mercury's in retrograde, right?
Yeah, she said, wait until after August 19th, you can go back to work.
So you got a couple weeks, you still can mellow out for a minute.
Yeah, so, because the idea, the whole thoughts is to get this done in August. Finish this record in August. And we're real close. We're just like 4 songs away from, because I wrote a new song on last Sunday. We're 4 songs away from having a completed record. Actually, we already got enough songs, but I always like to have 3 or 4 songs extra just to choose up from.
I thought she was going to get on you about your diet. I thought she was going to say, start eating healthier, George. It's hard to do down here with all the gumbo and all the catfish. I mean, it's pretty good. The food's really good down here.
And it's me. I'm eating the fast foods and the junk. When she was here, she would jump my butt about the ice cream. I haven't bought ice cream, and there's ice cream in the icebox. That ice cream needs to get thrown away because it's been there too long. Expiration
date gone, dude.
But I've eliminated the ice cream. But I'm doing the French fries and the burgers and stuff like that.
Well, I got to say, man, it's been an epic trip, and thank you for making it even better, man. People love this interview, and you just keep going straight ahead and stay on the right side of things. Much love to you, George Porter.
Thank you very much, Jake. Yeah.
We'll see you tonight, Ivan Neville's birthday party. Until then,
yeah, you're right.
Take care.